Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the most common refrains I hear when discussing housing with residents of the 17th District is their concerns about the affordability of housing. It remains a persistent challenge, and I took great interest to the ranking member's opening statement in which she alluded to the recent hearing that was held in my district, discussing, among other things, affordability, the corruption at NYCHA, the New York City Public Housing Authority, and housing policy generally. I agree with the ranking member that housing policy is of major concern to our nation, which is why it was disappointing that not one of my Democratic colleagues decided to show up for the hearing. They could have offered their input on this important matter. They chose not to. With mortgage rates near their highest since the turn of the millennium, a limited housing supply in many communities, and ongoing supply chain and construction issues, it is perhaps the most difficult time to purchase a home in our region's history. The affordability crisis is further complicated by the fact that many homeowners remain unable or unwilling to sell their home for fear of losing their fixed low-rate mortgages obtained prior to 2022. This is causing the limited supply to increase in price while also seeing home sales fall over 16% in 2023 compared to 2022. The median cost to purchase a home is more than 5.6 times greater than the median household income nationwide. In Rockland and Westchester counties, according to the National Association of Realtors, the monthly cost of a mortgage was $1,000 more in 2023 than it was in 2022. And in Putnam and Dutchess counties, it was at least $800 more per month. In both instances, there are additional housing costs of almost $10,000 or more a year. For many families, it is totally unsustainable. Things are also difficult in the commercial real estate market. Commercial lending fell 52% in the second quarter of 2023. Higher interest rates and higher vacancies in certain areas are making it harder for borrowers to make debt service payments, and defaults and delinquencies, especially in the office sector, could hit the banking system especially hard, as half of all outstanding CRE mortgage debt sits on bank balance sheets. With roughly $1.2 trillion in outstanding commercial real estate debt that is potentially troubled, according to Newmark, and more than $626 billion of debt set to mature in the next 3 years, signs appear to be pointing down in the CRE space. With so much uncertainty in our housing markets, it is understandable people might look to HUD for its leadership on navigating these challenges. But what happens when HUD isn't around in the conversation to provide feedback on the options regular Americans ought to have? That's why we need greater oversight and participation from the department on these serious issues, which is why I asked my colleagues to support my bill, the HUD Accountability Act. The HUD Accountability Act will simply require the HUD Secretary to testify on an annual basis before the House Financial Services and the Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committees. Specifically, it will ensure the Secretary addresses the current programs and operations of the Department, the physical condition of all public housing and other housing assisted by the Department, the financial health of the mortgage insurance funds of the FHA, oversight by the Department of grantees, efforts to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse, and any other relevant ongoing activities of the Department. As an agency with over 9,000 full-time employees and an annual enacted discretionary budget authority of more than $77 billion, periodic reports to Congress on the mission, activities, and accomplishments of HUD should be a recurring priority. An annual testimony requirement will allow for greater oversight of the agency to ensure taxpayer resources are effectively and efficiently used. The heads of several federal agencies that fall under the jurisdiction of the Financial Services Committee, including Treasury, the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection, and the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, are required by various statutes to testify before the committee. However, there is not a similar requirement for HUD. Because there is not a formal oversight mechanism required for the agency, the committee relies heavily on the work of the HUD Inspector General and its mission. Recently, the HUD IG was part of an operation that led to the arrest of 70 New York City Housing Authority, or NYCHA, officials for bribery. NYCHA houses over 528,000 people in New York City. It is by far the largest public housing authority in the nation. The conditions of it are horrendous, and it requires oversight. And for these reasons, among many others, we need the HUD Secretary to come before us on an annual basis and testify. And I urge all of my colleagues to support this common sense measure. And I thank Chairman McHenry for having this markup and yield back.